Hi, this is Jundo. Welcome to Treeleaf. Well, my subject today may look a little complicated because I made a whole list of stuff, but my point is really very easy. People think that what we're looking for in our Buddhist practice as the medicine for desire and suffering is just one thing, but really it's a whole bag of tricks. My friend Sid, who you met a couple of days ago, calls it our tool belt of, well, things we learn and approaches in our practice that we use to deal with the desire and the suffering, the craving and the disappointment that is our subject with the Four Noble Truths. You know, the basic point is very simple. The dukkha is when we wish X, but Y happens. And the stronger we wish for X and the stronger we're attached to X, the more disappointment, the more suffering, the more frustration when Y happens. So we have this whole bag of tricks that we've developed to deal with different situations. People think sometimes that our Buddhist practice is looking for one thing. For example, a very common image is this. Because we need to eliminate desire, what we need to do is become celibate, stop drinking, stop all human craving, check ourselves into a monastery, and that is the way to nirvana. Frankly, I think that's a good way to either a serious nervous breakdown or to becoming something of a robot. No offense, that may be a very good way of practice for some people. I don't want to say that. So let me take back what I just said. I mean more that our way of practice in Soto Zen is more to be a well-rounded human being who recognizes that we have desires and cravings. Our way is more to channel them and regulate them in healthful and helpful ways. Let me give you a few examples. I made this list, but it's really not so complicated. You see, the first thing we can do is learn to redirect our desire from the thing we want to something else. I'll give you some small examples and some big examples today. A small example. I was so late for some place I needed to go, and I was stuck in traffic, and the frustration was building, and my heart started to pound. I was able at that moment to redirect my attention to a beautiful flower at the side of the road. A very Zen thing to do. And suddenly, that flower, just seeing that flower, made my day. I was perfectly satisfied. And I substituted that goal, which I achieved right there, for getting to that place that I so much wanted to go. And I was at peace. Get the point? We got a whole bunch of stuff we can do. Another one I put down here is we can learn to soften or drop our attachment to the thing we want. Let's just say it's a big amount of money in the bank, or a promotion at work, or something like that. We really want it. We really want it. We're working for it. Our self-image depends on it. We can learn through our practice to loosen attachments, to not hang our self-image on such things, to just let be what will be. The attachment to the craved object softens, and suddenly it's not such a big deal. A lot of these overlap, as you'll see. For example, we can develop equanimity and acceptance towards any and all outcomes. When I was a student in school, I worked very hard. I needed to get an A in a certain class. And I was really stressed out, depressed, unable to sleep, drinking too much coffee. You know it. If you, any students out there, and the rest of you old fogies, you remember what it's like to be a student. Well, suddenly I just developed equanimity. If I got an A, that was fine. If I didn't get an A, if I failed the class, that was fine too. A certain equanimity to whatever the world puts on our plate develops in our practice. That doesn't mean, by the way, don't study, because remember, Jundo's philosophy, acceptance without acceptance. Equanimity does not mean we do not, on another channel, still have goals. Let's see, what's another one here? Our inner drives and cravings can be calmed and lose their force. A best example, I quit smoking once by going into a Zen monastery and just doing Zazen for about 10 days. And through the relaxation and the ability to sit and without object during Zazen, I felt the cravings for the cigarettes soften. Suddenly it was manageable. And that leads to the next one. Sometimes our inner drives and cravings have to be forcibly restrained by willpower. There were times there when I really, really was still dying for a cigarette. And my Zen practice gave me that samurai mentality. I could do it. I was stronger than cigarette. And I did. I overcame. I don't smoke anymore. Still have a little piece of chocolate cake, one too many, every now and then. Maybe I should put this into practice a little more with a new diet. But anyway, let's keep going. Sometimes we can drop both X and Y from mind. A very excellent example of this is sometimes we fear death. We were talking about this the other day. And we crave, we want to cling to life. I had a friend who was very, very ill. But he learned a certain inner peace by dropping all thought of life and death. And just to be. Just to be. He realized a certain pure way of being beyond life and death. And this helped him deal with this crisis and his health that he was facing at the time. So sometimes our Zen practice allows us to alleviate desire and suffering through just dropping all thought of A or B, X and Y. Sometimes our sense of self fully drops away. That self is the real bad guy here, isn't it? Because our self demands certain things of the world. The world should be this way. I wish the world were that way. And then when it's that way, I'll be happy. If it's not this way, then I'll be disappointed. But when we drop all thought of self, the barrier, the hard barrier between ourself and the universe, well, softens or even fades away. And then, the way the universe goes is just the way we go, man. In fact, there's no we. Just the universe going is the way it goes. And everything's along for the ride. That's kind of what it feels like. So anyway, as I said here, sometimes a lot of these things overlap. And we can use various mental perspectives simultaneously. Sometimes we use one or the other. But don't think that the fruit of our Zen practice is just one thing alone. We learn a whole tool belt of ways to approach issues of desire and suffering. And we're going to continue this discussion tomorrow when we go on to a discussion of the Eightfold Path, because that shows that while the basis in our Zen view is Zazen, it's a whole lifestyle that comes about to support this way of approaching life. And we're going to start talking about that tomorrow. So tune in for the Eightfold Path. In the meantime, you know what comes next.